welcome to the 137th episode of the Sawdust Nation Podcast with your host, myself, Nick from NPG Creations, Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, and Josh from North Country Woodworking. Now, before we get going today, I just want to say something. Boiling water hurts. And if you want to know more about it, stay tuned for when I go through what's going on in my shop. But what are we talking about? Are we doing shop talk first, guys?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's right. I'm Nat from Jersey. Nat from Jersey up in North Dakota. All right. Go ahead, Nap. What's going on in your shop, man?
You know, it's funny. I didn't have a lot going on up until today. I don't know what happened. Floodgates opened, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I want this. I want this. I want that. Hey, Nat, by the way, you've made this before. Can you send this to me? I'm like, oh, everyone just decided today on the 7th of February at roughly, 3:30 in the afternoon today, just everyone's calling me, messaging me they want stuff. So
it's good, though.
It is. It is a good thing, and luckily most of them are simple. If they weren't simple, I may or may not have had to turn some down, but they're all fairly simple, and their due dates are relatively far away. I say relatively far away, but end of the month is plenty of time to get some of these things done. So, starting from the top here, I'm pretty sure I talked about this last time, but I got that laser engraved photo that I'm doing. I learned quite a bit about that in general using Jarvis Dither. And when we go into parts of our topic with lasering and engraving acrylic, I'll also talk about how you could do it on acrylic because it actually, it transfers over. I have one of these things where it's like a picture frame inside of a framed, I guess, panel. It's kind of like a shadow box picture frame thing without the glass. It has an epoxy logo on the right side and a picture like this is us type picture, like three guys was like friends at forever type deal. And it'll be cherry, walnut, the whole nine with a little plaque under it. That has like a little quote or something, and then on the back, a personal message. I've done this in the past for this individual, and he liked the first one, so I'm making another one. I have which it's not in here, a replica revolver, and that replica revolver, so this is a maker, not necessarily a maker like us. He just randomly puts pieces of wood together at times. He doesn't like really do this full time. It's not like a huge hobby for this person. They just do it every once in a while. They put two pieces of wood together to house this replica revolver. An individual asked that received it if I could make just a better stand for it. So I'm making one of them. And then I got a few going aways. I'm diving into more of the acrylic game. It is becoming more of a thing for me because people just like the way it looks. But I'm going to mix not just the wood or not just the acrylic, but I'm also going to do thin pieces of wood as well to do some more of like, let's say the layering type stuff. And Nick is doing something interesting in his shop too, which is partially what I'll be mimicking in a sense, but I'll let him talk about that when he gets to his shop. I got a trophy to make for fantasy football. Little late, little behind the power curve, but he just wants a plaque. Traveling plaque for his family, like, hey, I won, you suck type thing. And they're going to pass it around the family type deal. Because I don't know how many of you out there do like fantasy football leagues with your family. I know we used to, and it kind of fell off. I think it's because we got tired of losing to the same person every year. We think they cheated. But yeah, so I got that to make. And then I got another, a lot of going aways, and they're all like relatively simple jobs. I also started reaching out to different agencies on base / like in town. So because I hadn't been getting a lot of business lately, and with also the Etsy being set up, but I'll talk about that in a minute as well, more into the Etsy because I did more to it. But I reached out to cornhole person off base. So they do like cornhole tournaments and things like that. So they'll bring the boards, the bags, they'll set up the whole tournament, do like the whole sign up for the teams and all that. And this person's running an event for our Air Force Sergeant Association, one of our fundraisers on base. And I was like, hey, I didn't get to, talk to you more about this just because, I was talking to some of the newly elected members. And I was like, I meant to pass you my information because I don't know if you know this. I make plaques, signage, awards, all the things, shadow boxes and whatnot. And he asked me, he goes, hey, question, can you make these? The typical, like, hey, here's a picture of like what I kind of want. I was like, well, yeah, they'll just be thicker because they use actual wood and I don't use plywood. Now, I will use plywood if the customer asks. Me personally, I just prefer not to. I think real wood looks nicer, and you can, I don't know, laser engraving plywood can be not so great at times, where like cherry, for example, it lasers phenomenally, and so does like mahogany and those things. And cherry, I would say, is like the best bang for your buck as far as like looks are concerned and engravability. So might get some of those jobs on the road because he said they typically would use one vendor, but they said they kind of like the way I do things a little more, so they'll probably come to me for some jobs for that. And then let's see here. Talked about losing a job. Okay, Etsy. So after Nick placed his first order, if you listened to last episode, you would have heard about the Etsy order Nick made, along with some detail as to what he wanted on that glass mug. He wanted a veiny phallic object. He did not get said veiny phallic object because I just know Nick well enough that he was going to write a review and put it on my Etsy and say, oh man, not too small, not too big, just right, or something to that effect. And he would have posted a picture of it. So soon to come, I'm sure when he gets it, he'll post something about it. But it was more of a joke and more literal sense to what he was asking for. But then shortly after, another gentleman ordered another beer mug, and it was for a bald eagle, and it said bald eagle on the bottom. And, just as my, didn't do this for Nick because I wanted Nick to see it when he got it. But for the individual that bought it that was not a prankster, I sent them a proof of it. They said, yep, that's good to go. Hit send and, lasered it, and now it's packaged and gone. I can say that in using Etsy, some experiences thus far, even though I've only made 2 sales, shipping is relatively easy. So they do calculate that shipping for you, but when they pay it and they pay the shipping and whatnot, which is pretty nice. But then the fees and the back end. So, charge X amount of dollars for this, and then they pay the shipping. But then when they take the shipping off after you pay for the labels, I noticed I lost I'm going to say close to $5 an order, almost just in fees alone. I'm not going to lie. I was a little pissed because I was like, So now I might increase just a little bit, because if I'm losing $5 a piece, that's no bueno for me. Because, well, I will tell you that if I mess up on a mug, that's going to cost me more money. Or if you give me like a super, extravagant design, that covers like any design people give me. So, yeah, I'm just going to have to maybe pass that on. And that's just kind of good business, unfortunately. But that was really the main thing with Etsy so far. I'm going to keep my Etsy posts open until they expire, which is in May. So just going to let it ride, see what happens. I have 3 tabs currently sitting here on the deal, the ones I talked about last time. I don't know if I showed you, Josh. I might have shown you, Josh, the epoxy one as well, the epoxy and painted one.
Yeah, or no, just the acrylic one, I think.
Yeah, so I had the acrylic one, and then I made 2 other ones. I'm just going to show them real quick. So on the Etsy, obviously, it shows like, okay, you got the acrylic and cherry ones. That's one variation. It costs X amount of dollars. So then I did this walnut one with green epoxy for the Recon. That's another variation that I make. And then, of course, just the carved and painted one.
Nice.
So I made these more as like a proof of concept, because it's like, okay, people can sit there, read descriptions and those things, but if you don't have some kind of like proof of concept that, hey, this is what this is going to look like when you receive it, depending what color you choose and all those things, it's kind of hard for people to, envision those things sometimes. So I just made those. Might not sell them. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If someone just so happens to want the ones that I've already made, that would be awesome. Probably not, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm adding more stuff. I'm currently making a flag right now for someone at my old job. I will be posting those on Etsy. And then I got a couple other things that I'm making. I'm pretty much posting stuff that I know I can make, not like quick, but stuff that's doable with like a very short period of time, like 3 to 5 days. I can make it and then ship it. Because I'm not gonna lie, I can't take on these weekly, like week-long, 2-week-long projects, like actual works worth of type of deal. Because that's just, one, it's very expensive. 2, I don't want to have what happened to Nick happen to me on packaging, and people kicking stuff out the back of UPS trucks and breaking things. Because that's just gonna piss me off, and I don't want to have that happen. I'd rather have little things break and fix those and send new ones than really big projects that took me hours and hours to make. And get destroyed. So stuff that's easily replaced, but also still make me, in the business some money. But other than that, it's really all that's going on in the shop. It's a cool probably 61 degrees right now. Which is pretty nice. It being 61 in the garage consistently has been honestly really nice, considering I blew that insulation in last week, and it's made a drastic difference in the shop. So if you don't have insulation in your ceiling, highly recommend it, especially if you're in a cold climate like North Dakota. So, but yeah, I'm done talking. Josh, man, what's going on in your shop?
Well, not too much, actually. It's been kind of slow. I had some jobs lined up. I did lose a big job, which is kind of depressing. But it is what it is. They found someone else they wanted to go with instead of myself. That's kind of like the Etsy game you play sometimes. And, it's kind of a little bit my bad, too. I didn't get to send them an invoice or a personalized invoice right away. It's just the way the cookie crumbled, and lost that job. So moving on, I got to finish the 24 by 18 plaque I just got completed with. It came out great. I'm just having a little trouble having the guy pick it up. It's just our schedules are not lining up, and our communication is how can I put this? It's hard to communicate when someone's limited on communication. So they might message me, and if I don't catch right away, you know what I'm saying? So the planning on pickup, it's just been kind of sitting here. I hate when a project sits here because like the probability of something happening to it, or me staring at it long enough and wanting to fix something, like I don't quite like something, or it just increases. Not that anything's wrong with this project. It's just like I want to do more to it because it's there. And so that's pulling my hair out there. And yeah, anyway, long story short. So I got that knocked out. I have another project that is due this week. I'm trying to get in the shop and get that complete. I have a couple orders I'm sending invoices for, getting final approvals. And then work's just been really busy. A lot of things happening, all moving in one direction or another, and training a whole bunch of people and trying to figure out what's going to be happening later this year. Life's picking up. I kind of predicted this in the beginning of the year. I kind of knew it was going to happen. So we're just running pace with it. That being said, I haven't posted on Instagram because, well, I haven't really been in the garage. And every time I'm in the garage, it's fast and the furious to knock out a project. So I like to start posting again, start getting that momentum build. But funny enough, when I don't post for a while, I actually gain quite a few followers. So I don't know what Instagram is doing as far as their algorithm and how they're managing what posts and how often and stuff like that. But these little breaks I've been taking have actually been doing good for my page. So it is what it is. It's kind of weird because, the last couple of years I've been trying to figure this out. We're trying to post every day, every other day, at the same time, trying to not beat the system, but understand the system. But when the system is as random as it is, it's almost impossible to figure out. So it is what it is. We're just going to keep seeing how things play out with that. Trying to pick up 3D printing, getting that rolling again. After I changed that nozzle, it's been kind of difficult to get that aligned. I got some things I got to send out that are finished with that. Kumo is actually asking for some parts for his rotary. So I'll be doing some prints for him and sending his way. Yeah, that's about it. There's not much going on. The shop is not a mess, but it's definitely needs to be tidied up a little bit. It's been kind of cold here, and I've been turning the heat on out there to just kind of keep it and maintain a nice, decent temperature. It's just a space heater. It's nothing too crazy. But, I'll turn it off and on throughout the day, or at least, when I expected to go out there. Yeah, I mean, everything's working great. The laser is a champ still. Like, I was able to complete a project in a couple hours because of that. It's amazing how, you can go from theory to concept to actually in production and how quickly that happens. And on the lines of that, I've been thinking about really putting together some like how-to light burn videos for the YouTube and starting that off. There are tons out there, but I figured, maybe my take is a little different. I can speak a little to diode and CO2, but it's one of those things where like, finding your little niche in there and try to get some content out. And allow me, to do some video work and stuff like that. Projects are not lined up like they used to be. Everyone's kind of holding onto the money for just groceries alone and gas. So I might just start doing the things I really want to do and start teaching, experimenting and stuff like that. Long story short. So I'm just trying to come up with some concepts. There's a lot of little things I've been wanting to do and saying I want to do and just have never had time. But now I'm having that time, I can start doing. I like to test, some finishes to see how they hold up with water and different elements, heat, whatnot. I like to go ahead and, really nail down what works with what. Not just to better myself, but maybe to go on the podcast and be able to tell you like, hey, I used this finish spray and it worked great up until this point. Day 3 soaked in water, I just, broke down or what have you. Through time and usage, I definitely have done that with different products that I use quite regularly, like Halcyon. I can tell you right now, the stuff is going to hold up, especially if you spray it right. And it's going to maintain color, everything. And I have a perfect example in upstate New York on my parents' lodge. I'll keep doing that kind of stuff and try to put together some content for everybody and maintain the page a little bit. But, life's been busy. I've been holding my breath, waiting for answers from the Air Force, seeing how things are going to happen and which way they're going to go. And I tend to, when I do that, I focus a lot on work and family, and everything else goes from the wayside. So that's kind of what's happening here with me. I'm just trying to maintain and get through it. I'm not very patient when it comes to life changes. I want to know, and I want to be able to work on getting them complete as fast as I can. I'm kind of like a workaholic when it comes to that. So like being not in the know and what's going to happen, it's driving me absolutely insane. And my poor core workers and my wife and everyone in between, they're just having to deal with it. So that's it. That's what's happening in the life. That's what's happening in the shop. The plans moving forward. Hopefully I'll have some more answers for you guys next week. I know I keep saying that, but I don't have the answers to give anyone. And hopefully I'll have like a shop when I'm going to close down the shop and when I'm going to be going and doing other things. And we can kind of schedule stuff out doing that. But Workbench Con is coming up. I'm really excited about that. In the meantime, there is a Workbench conference down in Edison, New Jersey. And it's a woodworking show. And I'll be down there Saturday and checking that out. Hopefully I can meet some people from the area or people flying in, what have you. It's a smaller show, but usually it's pretty good. So the first time I went was just before COVID, and there was a lot of makers down there and like vendors.
Are you drinking an energy drink?
No, it's LaCroix Black Raspberry.
Raspberry.
He's so uncultured.
Pinky's
uncultured
out.
Swine.
LaCroix.
But yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Nick so I can go drink my LaCroix and come and pick you up.
Oh man. So I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast that boiling water hurts when you spill it on yourself. So I was making what?
I said you don't say.
Yeah, no. I was making pasta for the kids earlier in the week, and so I had plans to be out in the shop that night, and I accidentally spilled boiling water across my stomach while I was making pasta, and it burnt the living daylights out of me, and it killed all my plans to have any sort of productivity that evening. I ended up having to go get some some stuff for the burn, and it just got all nasty. Anyway, so I went to the doctor, and when you go to the doctor, they're just expecting like not the worst thing in the world. When you tell them that you burned yourself, and they're like, how bad could it be? He's over, doctors always think that way, like, oh, how bad could it be? He's probably just overreacting, whatever. So I walked in today, and they're like, all right, let's see it. So I lifted my shirt, and both of them were just like, oh God, like, like it was like one of the worst burns they've seen. And they're like, I guess you weren't kidding. I'm like, well, why would I be here if I was just joking? Like, for real. That happened. It's healing. I'm good. But as far as the shop goes, I've been in there banging out some projects, getting some plaques out of the way. I have a couple of shadow boxes coming due here soon. I also been working a lot with acrylic and the laser. So I haven't posted much on Instagram because I've been slammed. But I got to say, I stopped by Ben Warren's house on last Friday to help him set his laser up. And I thought, since my OMTech came with the tube installed, I would just assume that his would too. Nope. Nope. So we installed the tube that evening, and there is a silicone glue you have to put on the tube to adhere. Like, it's like an arc shield that you have to glue to the tube. Anyway, so we got that squared away, and then I ended up going back that Sunday, and we got his laser up and running. He's got the 80-watt OMTech, and it is, I gotta say, it does a nice job, because we ran an acrylic job while he was there. Well, first off, we cut some wood, and I showed him how to navigate light burn a little more, and just some gee whiz stuff. And then we actually cut out a piece of acrylic that he would use as a project, and it did a fantastic job. So, and Ben, I gotta say, he it was kind of cool to see his reaction to what that capability can actually do for you, because I know he was taking over an hour and a half to do acrylic on the CNC with a drag bit or a V bit, a real tiny, like a small V bit. But now it's cutting his production time in half for the projects he has. So that's going to help him out quite a bit. Anyways, other than that, though, the shop's been kind of hit or miss with me in it. I've been doing my best to get as much shop time as possible, because I do have projects lined up. But, life's happening, so I got stuff going on as well. So I do try to get as much done as in the evenings as possible. Like last night, I think I went to bed at like 11 or midnight, and so on and so forth for the previous few nights. Was it Friday night? I don't remember. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. But that's all that's really going on in my shop. It's a mess. I have acrylic everywhere. So, stay tuned for more pictures on Instagram, and I'll start posting stuff. But what's so funny? Why are you guys laughing?
You should check your messages, because Stan is bombing our messaging. So I gotta say, I love our patrons, and I love other makers that we've conversed with in the past and still continuously talk to, because they know damn well when we're recording, and they will send us some obscure stuff, and all you can do is laugh, and people go, why are you laughing? Don't worry about it. It's not appropriate for the podcast.
Not at all. Maybe for the unrated version.
No.
Maybe we should make another tier. The unrated version.
No stuff.
Get banned from the internet there. So I'm curious. Like, I didn't know that. Honestly, the lasers get delivered without the laser tube in them. So is that like a certain model and underneath, or is like how?
From what I know, because Chris Foote had the same thing happen to him, and Chris is on Instagram as well as Chris Foote Designs. He ordered the 80-watt OMTech. I think it's the same model that Ben has, and his tube did not come installed. It came in a box, protected and everything, but it did not come installed. So he was at that point. I had never experienced that, because every time I bought a laser, it came with the tube installed.
Yeah,
but it's not a hard process. It really is not. I mean, you you got to be careful with the tube because you don't want to bang it up against anything because,
Yeah.
once you crack it or whatever, you're done. But it really isn't. It's just time consuming because you have to wait at least 6 hours for that silicone glue to dry. And then once it's dry, you're good to go to start firing that tube. And the reason that they want you to wait is because, for one, the glue needs time to set. And if you keep sending the pulse through the tube, it's going to heat that tube up and it's not going to let that glue to set. So anyhow, yeah,
it's fascinating.
Yeah, but Ben's got a nice setup. He's got his laser up, kind of like our shops where the laser's close to the door. He drilled a hole for the streamline fan, the inline fan, to push all the fumes out and out through the side of his garage. So it's really nice how he's got it set up. But yeah, maybe he'll post a picture. I don't know.
It's set up kind of like mine, Nick, with the 6-inch hole in the side of the wall, pretty much. But you have like a vent that's hooked up to it. That's what I have. I have a 6-inch vent coming from the side of my house, hooked up to the hose with the AC infinity or whatever.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I wish, because here, I mean,
can't drill holes.
Yeah, we can't drill holes. And
base housing.
It gets cold, right? So I'll be nice and warm, and I have to use the laser, and I have to crack the door, and I'm putting cardboard up and everything I can to prevent the wind and everything to blow in, and it gets so cold that it sets off the alarm in my chiller, and I have to make sure that I run it a little bit just to get it heated up. It's a fun process.
Anyway, that's all that's going on in my shop, guys. We got any inquiries or questions going on today?
So not necessarily questions, not really too many inquiries, but really going off last episode. So, as we started closing out the last episode, people like to give really good ideas for what we should do the next episode on. Two of the things that came up, one of which coming from Ben specifically, especially because we just got on talking about him, was some things about lasering and engraving acrylic. You kind of went into it a little bit. But maybe we can talk about just some best practices, maybe some of the stuff you found with thicker acrylics, Nick, maybe with if it's slower, more power, etc. Let's talk a little bit about that stuff real quick, just to see if we've got anything different.
Yeah, so typically with 16th inch acrylic, I'll run 50% power at 12 millimeters per second on a 130 watt tube. And it cuts right. I'm not just cutting the acrylic though. I'm cutting the paper, I'm cutting the acrylic, and I'm cutting the adhesive backing I put on it. So, and it cuts.
So I
clean.
did the same thing, Nick.
Yeah,
but not that high, bud.
Why not?
I think you could even speed that up a little bit and still have your same power.
About 15-20% and still do that.
20%? I don't know.
Yeah, because I go 25% on mine.
The worst thing you can do is run your laser and then not have the piece completely cut out and then move your piece. And now you lost zero. So
no, and I hear you on that. I've never had that happen because 25% for me on 100 watt was plenty. Well, okay, so I tested it at 20. I had exactly what you had happen, Nick. But I also did a test piece. I did it on purpose. I wanted to see what my settings would be. So my settings are 25% at 10. 15? But yours is also, you said 30, right?
30 what?
No. Your speed.
12. I could probably go faster if I wanted to. But I blast air assist too. So that also aids in it. So I guess I haven't realigned my numbers after I upgraded my air assist.
Yeah, do that, man. Because I tell you what, 1, you'll save your tube. 2, I think you'll just realize that your laser's more capable than you could ever imagine. It's beaming with possibilities.
Well, anyway, so I kept the same parameters for, I think it was 1/4 inch acrylic too, and it did fine.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, it is what it is, man. Instead of when I go switch from layers to layers and stuff like that, I don't always change the settings just because if I'm doing the cutting passes, I just forget sometimes. But
listen, it's to each their own. It works for you, and that's the beautiful thing about each of our shops is we all do things a tad bit different, and whatever works for you. As long as you're getting the desired result, it don't matter how you do it.
I'll tell you what, though. You know what sucks? is that plastic on, like, some acrylic comes with paper on it.
Oh,
some comes with plastic.
Yeah.
Like, if there's plastic on it, for some reason, it doesn't cut all the way through the entire piece. It'll cut through the majority of it, but I don't know, like, 'cause I flip it upside down if I'm cutting like mirrored acrylic, I flip it upside down, and the front side of the mirrored acrylic, to keep it from getting scratched, I leave the plastic on, and when I cut through it, it starts, you can see the strings are still attached to the bottom side. It's really weird.
That's weird. Maybe it's because it's mirrored. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I'm not cutting the mirror. I'm not cutting with the mirror facing up. I'm cutting with the mirror facing down. So it's facing like a matte finish.
Okay. That is weird.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's neither here nor there. But anyway.
I find it funny in our laser game that, like, Nap is the most restrictive. Like, he wants the lowest setting that he can get out of his tube as much as possible. I'm like middle of the road between him and Nick. And Nick's like, yeah, we're going to be in this.
Full send.
Well, so do you know how much material I've wasted trying to get things optimal?
No,
and then
I
think
I hear you 100%. Yeah, like, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just a technique.
And also,
I've been there and done that.
You got to think too, like, in between, like, so I always try to clean my lens before each day. I'll go and clean the lens and put it back in, right? But if I've been running that son of a gun for like an hour, and it's getting all that nasty plastic stuff up into the lens, so you know what I mean. Every time there it is.
Look at her. Just look at her. It's so beautiful.
There it is.
I like looking at it. God.
So if you don't constantly make an effort to clean your lens, even if, like, say you're like, I'm running a job that's cutting out acrylic for like 45 minutes. By the end of that job where I'm cutting or etching acrylic, then the lens takes so much of a beating I don't say a beating, but all that nasty particles of off gas goes up inside the nozzle. Even with air assist, it's unavoidable. And at that point, then you start running into issues with, okay, you're not going to get as great of a cutting power as you would if you just ran a quick, like, 5-10 minute job. The dirtier the lens gets, the less power you have to cut, or the more power you need to cut. And it's like a happy medium in between. Because
that's just weird.
What?
Well, okay. So I'm not saying my lens doesn't get dirty, but I never find myself having to clean my lens that much. I don't. Maybe it's because my focal length might be just a tad bit different to where, like, it's maybe not right on top of it. Maybe, I don't know.
Mine's 13/16 from the piece.
Jesus. That's actually pretty far, actually. So I don't know, man. That's weird.
It's really,
because I've done quite a bit of acrylic lately.
Well, pretty much all I've been doing lately is
that's true.
Maybe because it's so far away, it's not able to blow away all the burn and all the nastiness.
Maybe
because when it's closer, the air is just pushing that off. I don't know. I'm guessing here.
But I do know that I have the upgraded kit from American Photonics that I haven't put on there yet. So
that is a game changer. I love, like, I don't use my Auto Z anymore. I use just the battery, like he said. And I'm telling you, like, I can burn and cut out pieces so much faster and cleaner. Like, it's just amazing the difference. And, like, I don't have that worry anymore, like you were talking about, while not cutting all the way through. Like, I can go through 1/2-inch stuff and it goes. So, like, I would install it, and you might find yourself reducing your settings a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. It's just that what I have works for me right now until I upgrade. So until I put the upgrades on, then I'll have to figure it out all over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, true. But it's a learning curve. Every time you make an adjustment, you have to learn a little bit more. Yeah, but with that, we also had a different topic, unless you guys want to get into a little bit of the picture engraving. Actually, we're talking about lasers. Nap, why don't you jump into the picture engraving?
Yeah, so, okay. I haven't done this test yet because I kind of just jumped right, and my phone's almost dead, so if you guys are doing funny things, I'm not checking it because it's almost dead. But if you're doing photo engravings with, like, a Jarvis dither, believe it or not, for a while there, when you look at a picture and you do contrast black and white, you think it's just white, the really, really light spots, right? Well, they're not. They're actually just really, really light bits of gray. That's at least what I found and noticed. It's not actually white as you would think, like this piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
When you go and look at an image and you look at a Jarvis dither, you have to set up your scale, your min and your max. Well, minimum, I used to have it 0, thinking that was going to give me my lightest spots. And then, you put I put 25% or 30% thinking, okay, and this will be my darkest spots. Well, fun fact, if you have a 0 and you have that high setting being at 30, it's going to burn the whole damn thing at damn near 30. And your grays are not going to come in. So then I joined a forum. So I didn't learn this on my own because honestly, I didn't understand the concept of, I knew the concept of Jarvis dither, but I did not understand the concept of grayscale. So understanding grayscale helps you understand a Jarvis dither a little more. So you adjust your contrast, do all the things. Now, what I ended up doing was, because I know 7.5 is the lowest power percentage, my laser will fire. And then, 10 being the next, and so on and so forth. I set it to my lowest laser firing percentage, which is 7.5. And then I end up setting it to 25% as my high. Now, when you do a preview in Lightburn, it's going to show you that it's dark as all hell. Like it's just dark. The reason why it's dark is because it's giving you a preview of dots per inch at your highest percentage, and it's not really showing your light stuff because it's not going off speed. It's just going off power and interval. So speed also plays a factor. So if it's too slow, guess what? Your dots per inch are going to have more of a chance to connect when they burn and leave that overburn. It'll start to mush your shades together. You'll end up getting one shade more than, let's say, multiple shades. Now, I think I might be able to pull this up before my phone dies. But once I figured this out, I was able to laser engrave. Now, this thing is probably not going to be as dark or as visible as it should be, but this was the picture I was able to get with
nice.
What I figured out. So a lot of details in the face. So I ended up figuring that out. And when you set your speed high enough, it just gives it just enough time. So I did 350 millimeters per second at 7.5. At a minimum and a 25% maximum. Now, this is the other part, is the DPI, or dots per inch.
Mm-hmm.
The DPI is also known as your line interval. That is whatever you feel is going to be the best. So, like for me personally, I think for that particular one, it might have been like 150 or 175. No, and I'm actually pulling this one up right now just because it's let's see, my deep. So yeah, 350. Oh, and actually, a max power was at 20 for this one, and my DPI was 172.
Yep.
Because if you have it too high, like 300, okay, that's 300 dots per inch, which means that's going to be like super crowded, and you're going to get so much overburn. It's not going to look nice. Mm-hmm. The less dots you have, it's like the minimalist effect. That's what I'm going to call it, just like I do with my laser. Minimal amount of power needed to do the job. It's the minimal amount of dots you can get to achieve the desired result. And I typically am able to preview something, and if I can see facial features, even if the background's pretty black, the speed is going to lighten all that up, and that'll give you all the details you need. But that'd be the same thing for acrylic. So typically speaking, I mean, actually, it might even be a few less dots per inch because acrylic, well, it kind of melts rather than burns. So you may have to decrease that, or maybe even decrease the power on your max a little bit. But you should be able to do a lithopane the same way on acrylic. And that is kind of something I'm going to look into next, is being able to make lithopanes like acrylic clear. What's up, Josh?
I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but on the acrylic side, I would say decreasing your power percentage would actually do better than the DPI because you don't want to melt it too far and maintain the detail and the dots. Just a thought. Well,
this is something I will attempt, and I will try, and will report back. But okay. I'm definitely looking into doing it because I'll tell you what, when I see like the light up cubes, like the glass cubes that have like now mind you, those are different. Obviously, I don't think we can do that. I don't even know how the hell you do that, to be honest with you. But it'd be something like that, and it could light up and you can see the image, which I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, so that's photos for you all. If you haven't, believe it or not, joining forums for that kind of stuff does help because that's how I got a lot of the ideas on how I run my laser. These folks are running like auteurs and like the higher powered diodes, which is why they run at like 1,000 millimeters per second and things. I'm like, yeah, I'm not running mine that fast. I'm good. Like, that just seems a little excessive.
We are hitting on lasers. There's some talk in the chat about having the autofocus and whether or not it can be used with American Photonics. So I just kind of want to hit on that real quick to clarify some of the comments I put in there. So when OMTech has the autofocus probe, it is basically programmed for the lens that it came with, right? You can adjust it so that auto focuses after you do your adjustments to whatever you need it to adjust to. So the problem with American Photonics, or one of the things about American Photonics, depending on how you go about getting your kits, like mine, I got the entire assembly. So I removed the tube and then I slide in the American Photonics tube because the lens has already been glued into there. And I have to remove that probe. Now, if I was going to use that one lens the entire time I use the laser, or for a good amount of time, I could spend the amount of time to program the actual probe so that autofocus will actually measure out whatever a AAA battery thickness is. And, I won't have to manually adjust it. But with my particular kit, I actually bought the 4 different lenses and I do interchange them. So it doesn't make sense to utilize the probe when I can, it'll take just too much time to set up and get that down. If I had a way to, basically, position it in such a way where it was a constant and I didn't have to really mess with it and just actually mess with the numbers within the machine, that would be a useful feature. But as of right now, I have not figured out how to standardize that enough so it could be a quick change out and then continue with the job. But the auto probe, honestly, you can continue using that with no matter what you put in there. You just have to figure out the distance and then calculate it and set the probe in such a position it actually displaces the distance between the item and your nozzle. It took a little time to learn that. Nap, when he was helping me set up the machine the first time, I kind of figured that out and I kind of went with that. And it was fine for that nozzle because, well, at the time, that's the only thing I had. So if you go ahead and you just buy one nozzle and that's what you're going to run and you have the autofocus, I would say go ahead, set it up, because then you won't have to worry about the AAA battery and the manual adjustment. If you have more than one, I don't know if it's time worthy to go ahead and set up. So just a little bit more laser talk on that. And I wanted to make sure it was kind of clear because, sometimes through, messaging on the side, it doesn't always come across. Someone got his charger for his phone. You got anything to add there, Nick, about engraving pictures or anything?
Yeah, so I've only done it like one time. And I mean, I'm sure that I could figure it out again, but just not really that interested in it right now with the current workload of stuff I have going on. It just takes a lot longer than what I normally am used to getting stuff out. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So, and there's something to be said about the detail that comes with it, but I'm not like, I don't offer that to people like, hey, I can print a picture on wood, because it does tie my machine up quite a bit when I have other stuff I can be doing. Because I typically try to prioritize my jobs based off of time and schedule everything out on like, all right, so the other night, so I'll give you an example. I'm working on four projects, four different plaques, they're the same though. So I cut each piece out all at the same time, like all the components out, and then instead of mixing them, like putting them all in a basket or whatever, and then bringing them in and assembling them, I just kept them separate in like little boxes, each one. So I knew that I had every piece for each one, And when I went to assemble it, I used the picture as a reference and did it. But while I was assembling, I had another piece going on the laser as well. So it's I don't know. I guess I could. I don't know. I guess I could do it, but I don't really have any want to.
It's time consuming. Nap, you're finding this out. You've already known this, but anytime I get someone that wants a picture done, I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that I get that picture done correctly on the type of wood it needs to go on.
So I will tell you, if you're laser engraving pictures on wood, the best, believe it or not, it's not real. It's wood, not really real wood, but Baltic birch or birch plywood, the best for engraving photos. Period.
Cherry too, if you get it down. But you're right. Like
cherry's hard because of the color.
It is, especially if you got a lot of different grays. But
Baltic
honestly,
birch is like white.
Yeah, well, that's why it works so well. Yeah, you get to see
maple.
a lot of the more detail. Maple works, but
it burns like a light brown.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Or you could do hardwood birch hardwood. Do a birch plank.
I have a birch
plank.
Log. I've tried it. It's not bad.
I'm now offering brands though, so people can come over and I'll laser etch a brand on them. I'm playing. I don't do that.
That's not a lawsuit coming.
I've seen a video of this, and actually, it was not great. Not on you. Oh, it was on a person. He was like, "Oh yeah, can you laser?"
They're doing it on their knuckles. Was it the same video?
No, this dude did it on his leg.
I seen it on the knuckle. It was a fiber laser, and they did it on his knuckle.
Oh, why would you do that?
I bet that
on the next episode of Why Are We Dumb?
Well, I actually seen two videos of that. One was just like on the regular skin, and then someone else did like a tattoo, which is like a black circle, and then they threw it under the fiber laser, and they did a pattern. Don't ask me. I would never try it. Things not to do.
What's your speeds and feeds for cutting through a finger?
5 millimeters per second at 90% power.
90% power, and you just like...
I think 90 would do it through the bone.
Fudge, yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to
let us know.
I'm going to do this.
I'm good.
I'm going to get a chicken bone, and I'm going to stuff it inside a hot dog, all right? And I'm going to put it on my laser and see what it takes. What do you think? Would you be interested in knowing?
I'm oddly curious, but I
actually kind of am.
Why? Like, where did this start from?
I don't know. Just for gee whiz.
Yeah. Very
all right,
particular gee whiz.
If you give me a phone call and you say, Nap, I need your help, I'm just going to say, don't tell me anymore. Go talk to a chaplain.
Call 911.
It wasn't a finger I chopped off. Call me ma'am.
That's messed up. Oh, God. That's not good.
Videotape it.
Our
Patreons are so supportive.
So I got a question for you. When you guys got your laser, was there like a time period where you were just like, I don't know, do you have like a new tool ritual where you're like in awe over your tool?
Oh, yeah. Still am.
You still are? You're just like out there and you're like, man, it's a good looking piece of equipment.
Honestly, when it comes to the CNC and the laser, even the 3D printers, any of those capable machines, every time I use it, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like has never been something in my wildest dreams that I would have and own and utilize, at any point in my life until like, within the last 5 years. So like, it's one of those things where as I'm cutting something out on the laser or the CNC's carving something or the 3D printer's layering and doing its thing, it's like, wow, like, how A, did I get into this? B, how did I learn about this? And C, look at what it's doing. I could watch the CNC laser and 3D printing all day. It's just fascinating.
Nap, do you have any like new tool rituals? Do you like clean it every time you use it for the first couple weeks and then you're just like, fuck it? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to keep it nice and shiny. Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually did that with the laser for like the first week and I realized this dust is never going to not be on here. Like, I'm good. So I just let it go. As long as the dust isn't collecting too much on the inside, like outside, I don't really care. But I got it to where like the inside really doesn't get dusty as long as I keep the lid closed. I remember Nick like saying, Nap, close that laser lid. I'm like, oh yeah. And then I close the laser lid. But yeah, I do stuff like that. Or what was it? The saw stop when I got it, I just kept turning it on and off because every time it's trying to it'd be like, what? Make that whining sound. I'm like, oh, it sounds so good. Turn it off. And then do it again. Ah, so good. Turn it off. And I was like, okay, it's annoying now.
So So for our Patreon members, my ritual's a little different. I like to mark my territory. When I get a new tool, I just for a little bit. It's mine.
This is one of the reasons I never buy tools from Nick.
Yeah. So if you see cast iron, if you get anything with cast iron with a mushroom mark on it, that's probably
Little rust. Don't worry.
That's just nasty.
That's so disgusting. But
it's not big enough to notice.
But I didn't have to worry about anything bad happening when I ran for my saw stop.
I knew it. I just knew it.
What? You guys didn't do the hot dog test?
That's how you really set that thing off the first time. You didn't set it off with a miter gauge. You set it off with something else.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
Just a Nick.
Just a Nick.
Well, that's an episode title.
Just a Nick. I don't know. You can't even keep half of the stuff in there, though.
No, we'll just call it.
You'd be surprised.
We'll call it boiling noodles.
Boiling
noodles.
They'll be like, why is it called boiling noodles? And eventually they'll get to the part where it talks about you burning the
slow burn.
Oh man, it was
slow deep burn.
Well, we're talking about cutting anyway. Should I tell Noel? CNC. Kumo doesn't know.
Kumo.
Oh man, that poor kid. Hopefully he doesn't have the same ritual.
So do you all use the autofocus? I use manual focus, Jason.
I manually focus mine as well.
Right now, yeah.
Because I burnt my autofocus completely off.
That's what you get for setting. Should I tell? Oh Lord. Yeah, I just not realized what you were laughing about with yeah. You should absolutely tell him that Nick rubbed his Johnson on each axis motor.
Nick roped his little Nick on his CNC.
Anyways, well, we could talk about wood movement, but I think we should close it out and save for the next one because there's definitely like 4 different cuts that I was learning about. I was like, yeah, this is definitely a whole topic in its own because you start talking about quarter sawn and flat sawn and all those things. So if you don't know what those things mean, you're probably going to want to listen to the next episode because we're going to talk a lot about that stuff. And maybe even educate ourselves a little more because I was reading some stuff and I was like, I didn't even know that. There's even an episode somewhere where it talks about AJ and his magical wood whispering abilities to make things uncup and things. So those are one of the earlier episodes where when AJ was a host on the podcast. There's actually reasons why that happens. So we'll talk about a little bit more about that stuff on the next episode, I think.
Still magic.
It is magic. It really is. There's magic and then there's speed magic. We'll talk about both. But let's go ahead and wrap this episode up, yeah? Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, so check it out. If you are in the market for some cool dust boots or spindles for your CNC machine, check out pwncnc.com. They are our biggest sponsor. Not only that, but you can get 10% off your entire order by using the promo code SAWDUSTNATION981 at pwncnc.com. That's off your entire order. Tell them the Sawdust Nation boys sent you. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Totalboat, for their continued support. You guys rock. If you need 10% off for your Totalboat order, go ahead and slide into the Sawdust Nation Podcast DMs, and we will hook you up. And again, I want to thank our affiliates, OMTech, for being there for us, and for Makerstock.com for their awesome services and acrylic and plywoods and veneers and other stuff. So check them out at Makerstock.com. And that's all. So I'm going to kick it on over to Nap.
Yeah, folks. So check it out. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, whatever catches a podcast, we're on it. Go ahead and give us 5 stars. And, let us know how we're doing. If you don't give us 5 stars, tell us why so we can make sure we give you guys the content that you just deserve. Yeah. If you give us 5 stars, tell us more about how we're doing and give us more topics and ideas. Yeah, I lost my train of thought there for a second. I don't know what happened. I think I time warped. I have no idea. But yeah, just like last episode, we were given some good ideas from the chat here, from the patrons, but also it doesn't limit to the patrons. That could be anybody out there in the IG world. So go ahead and hit us up. And Josh, tell them how to get a hold of us.
Well, it's easy to get a hold of us, ladies and gentlemen. You can go ahead and slide into our DMs at Sawdust Nation Podcast. There you can reach all three of us, and that's half the fun. If you want to reach us individually, because you know what, we all have our cup of tea, go ahead and reach MPG Creations, Nick over there. And then we have Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, and myself, Josh, from North Country Woodworking. We'd love to hear from you either way. If you don't like social media, go ahead and slide into our email account at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. Same thing. Ask us questions, topic ideas, or even send us a voice clip for the actual podcast. And you know what? We also want to hear about your rants, your raves, what you have to say about the maker community, what you have to say about a tool, whatever. We would love to read it on the podcast, share your thoughts and ideas. That way we can weigh in as well. Talking about weighing in, hey, if you like the podcast and you really want to be part of it, become a Patreon in the 3rd tier, and you can go ahead and weigh in, topic ideas, jokes, laugh with us when, you know, we're saying things we can't necessarily air on the normal podcast, and, you know, join our Patreon team. And with that, we're going to go with the final word, starting off with Nap.
Yeah, folks, check it out. You notice that when we start talking about certain things, we dive right into our settings. We dive right into like how we actually do things. So that's a part of making the community stronger. So we will always contribute to the community in whatever way that we can, whether it be giving you advice on how to set something up in a shop, how to set up your laser, how to make your laser better, how to make your CNC better, how to use certain tools, best practices. That's how we make everyone better, and that's how you all make each other better. So just know that if you ever need help with anything, we're here. And if you haven't heard on the podcast, make sure you hit us up. Let us know. Maybe we'll look into it. For example, wood movement. I knew a little bit about it. I know more about it because someone brought it up, and we're going to talk a lot about it next podcast. But yeah, that's all I got. Y'all take it easy. Nick.
Like always, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, folks, the only difference between a chickpea and a lentil is I've never had a lentil on my face. Josh.
Thank you for listening to the 137th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to turn us on the way to work, making that cup of coffee during breakfast, lunch, working out, or in the shop. Thank you for turning us on so we can whisper in your ear. With that, go make some sawdust, and Sawdust Nation Podcast out.
Out. And really, what you're gonna have to tell me about this time where it wasn't a lentil on your face. Is this in Vegas?
Possibly.
Things
oh
happen.
Man, we're gonna get in so much trouble on ATL.